Welcome to Beyond the Track, presented by eBay Motors. You know, eBay Motors has over 85 million new and used parts online right now. 70% of those parts, by the way, are new parts. So it's a great place to go on and get anything you need, all things automotive, all things racing. ebaymotors.com. Be sure to check out their new mobile app and get that downloaded on your phone. I have that on mine, and it keeps you informed and alerted of those specific parts you might be looking for. Be sure to check them out, ebaymotors.com. I'm Sean Stewart with the U.S. Motorsports Association. We're an advocacy group for grassroots racing across all 50 states, all forms of racing. You can learn more about us by going to saveracing.com. That's saveracing.com. You can become a member of the USMA. There's no fee for that. It just helps raise a louder voice for all of us. And also, we keep you informed of issues facing your specific area as well as across the country. We also have a COVID-19 toolkit on there that's been a great help to many tracks and promoters and just a lot of different people in our industry. You can check that out as well. All of that is free to use. There's some great resources there. We keep that updated as much as we can as we all try to navigate this crazy and bizarre time of COVID-19. Speaking of crazy and bizarre, we did something really crazy and bizarre here at the USMA. We left the office and we went halfway across the country to Lucas Oil Speedway in Wheatland, Missouri, where we took in 4 races. And if you have not been to this place, you've got to move it to the top of your bucket list. I had heard about Lucas Oil Speedway. I'd seen races on TV, but until I was there, I did not realize how amazing this place is. 3 racetracks. There's a dirt late model track, a drag boat racing facility, and an off-road park. We were out there for pretty much a whole week. Took in 3 rounds of the Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series, a short course off-road series that primarily runs out west but made the trek back east. And also on Saturday night, we took in a dirt late model race, so 4 races in 4 days. And we did a lot more than that, though. We camped out, we fished, we just had a great time. And a lot of that having a great time was not by accident. It was because there is an amazing staff of people there, led by one guy, the general manager there, Dan Robinson. Dan is an RPM Promoter of the Year. He's a well-respected guy, and he does a great job managing this giant facility out there. We were able, despite everything going on, to sit down with Dan as we did our podcast live from Lucas Oil Speedway. We learned a little bit about the history of the track, the vision of Forrest Lucas, who turned this farm field into one of America's greatest racing facilities. So let's take you back a little bit in time, last week when we were out live at Lucas Oil Speedway, and we sat down with Dan Robinson, general manager of the track. Dan Robinson. Dan, thanks for sitting down with us.
Well, Sean, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on here with you guys and with the USMA program at the off-road event here at Wheatland. Yeah,
thank you. I've heard about this place for quite a while, and everybody says it's an amazing place, and you hear that, and I've watched several races on TV, and, you know, it obviously looks great on TV. Coming here, though, when I pulled in, I was truly blown away. I'm still blown away. I woke up this morning, I thought, wow, is this some sort of racing dream, or is this actually a facility? So if you're listening and you've never been here, I'm not just saying it because Dan's here.
Right.
This is an amazing place. 3 tracks. You got an amazing dirt track. You got an off-road track that is out of this world. And then right behind us here is a drag boat racing track. But it's really more than that. I mean, there's kids here fishing and camping, and this is just, truly one of the greatest tracks in America. So tell us, Dan, how did this start? I mean, we're really kind of here in the middle of Wheatland, Missouri. There's not any other big attractions that I know of nearby. So how did this all come to be?
Well, you know, back in the day, in the early 2000s, late 90s, Forrest Lucas started purchasing some ranch land in this area and in a nearby town, Cross Timbers, Missouri, and it ended up buying some more closer to there was an existing racetrack here. It was called Wheatland Raceway.
Okay.
Local gentleman had turned his bean field into Wheatland Raceway, and it was a very nice little local track, and, you know, they had just normal Saturday night type racing, and he ran it for about 5 years, and he was, you know, getting up in age already, and he just really decided, and maybe running a racetrack wasn't the thing he needed to do for a long time, and kind of struck up conversation with Forrest, and Forrest had come to the ranch a lot, so it was easy for him to come here. He was looking for a racetrack, and so he bought it, and eventually immediately demolished everything there except the circle, and rebuilt into the circle track you see today. And then as Forrest and Lucas Oil had other series, the Lucas Oil Drag Boat Racing Series and the Off-Road Series and different things, Forrest saw the need to have things where he can control the content, control the background, control how it was built, and do it the right way like he does with everything. So in 2011, we built and finished the Drag Boat Lake, started drag boat racing there, and then 4 years ago, we built the off-road track to really bridge the gap between the West Coast and the Midwest, and I'm sure we'll get into it more later, but obviously we had this terrible storm last year, and so this is kind of our return to off-road racing after a 2-year hiatus here, but that's kind of the short of it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's incredible. So it's almost like you went to build a dirt track, and then knowing how Forrest Lucas thinks, and all of you do, really, it's like it just probably something in his mind, and here it is. It just kept growing. And you're right. You had a major storm. You had a tornado come through here and virtually destroyed the off-road park. Did you guys ever think, hey, maybe off-road racing here in the Midwest, let's just do something else with the land, or were you committed to getting that rebuilt and back again?
No, we were committed to rebuilding it. We had already spent a lot of time and effort and laid out what we think is obviously the premier track in the country with the layout and the challenges that the track provides. And we had this concrete crossover bridge, and there was just too many elements in place, and so we immediately put resources together and rebuilt the grandstand cover, and we utilized existing bleachers products that we had at other racetracks, and so we built it. If you walked in here today, you'd never know anything happened.
Yeah, I saw the video and in the pictures, and I went over there, and you'd never know there was anything wrong. How do you, as from a marketing standpoint, this has been a challenge. I'm from out west, and off-road's kind of known just like dirt track racing's known throughout the Midwest, and there's different pockets, different kind of racing around the country. But from a marketing standpoint, how have the fans reacted to coming out here, and how have you drawn them out to get them to understand what off-road racing is?
It just took Kyle LeDuc to jump one time on the backstretch, and that sealed the deal. Seriously, the first year we had a practice day, and he had some sort of mechanical malfunction earlier in the day, and we had just started getting a few people in early in the day on the first race day, and he took a couple laps kind of slow, and then he finally turned it up, and he jumped the backstretch and flew like 270 feet, and the whole crowd that was here just gasped like, holy cow. And after that, it was like, now that's... And then the racing was fantastic that whole weekend, and they got to see all these stars that they're used to reading about, McCachran and McGrath and Deegan, all these guys, and so it immediately sold itself.
Yeah, that's great. Seeing is believing, right? That's
Absolutely.
That's definitely how this is, and a lot of motorsports are. I think you got to get out and see it, and then you're hooked. How is the town reacted? I mean, this is obviously a quiet town, small town. Was it positive or negative when this monstrosity of a racing facility went in?
Well, you always have some negativity in anything you do, but for the most part, especially the county officials, the government in Missouri, the local town officials, everybody was pretty supportive of it. Especially, there's not a lot of jobs here. There's not a lot of revenue generation. So, we obviously provide a lot of tax base to the town, help the schools and everything. And I think we're very respectful of our neighbors, our noise and our crowds, and we try to be respectful. And I think that goes a long way to keeping anybody from being upset with what we do.
Yeah, it's great. You got to be. It's definitely a give and take. We see that around the country. Tracks that are working with their local officials and being a good community partner, things work out well. How many races? Obviously, you have off-road here, which is kind of a unique event. You've got some drag boat racing. You've got some big events come to mind, like the Show Me 100s becoming a very big dirt late model event. But is there something happening here every weekend, racing or non-racing?
Almost always, yeah. I mean, we do have one weekend where we do a professional bull ride that's really popular.
Oh,
we
wow.
started 3 years ago. We do that right on the front stretch. But, yeah, for the most part, we start in April, and we run till the end of October. And we have everything, from, like you said, Show Me 100 Lucas Oil late models, ASCS sprint cars, monster trucks, weekly racing. We just have... I'm really big on diversity, so I don't like to I don't want to have 6 weekly races in a row. We try to have a couple, and then we go to something different the third week and give those guys a chance to spend time at the lake with their wife or whatever, and then we bring in sprint cars or we bring in just something unique. So we try to keep it really fresh, and we really balance that schedule.
That's great. And I noticed one thing, and you as a general manager, you're obviously wearing a lot of hats and managing a lot of different aspects, from the restrooms being clean and working well to sponsor banners. But I've noticed, just in walking around here, everything seems perfect. I mean, the banners are out. They're perfectly lined up. How much time and energy do you and your staff put into thinking about the fans and the sponsors? Because in my mind, it looks like there's, it looks easy to put the banner up, but to strategically place that and do that, how much time goes into, we're here starting an event tomorrow, but leading up to this, what kind of effort goes into an event like this?
It starts the day after the event happens. We plan all year long to make sure, all of our partners are covered, and, we debrief on Monday and, what can we have done different? What can we do different with restrooms or with fan amenities or power for, campers or whatever there is. So it does take a tremendous amount of effort. But we also work with great traveling series. For instance, this week, Richie Lewis and the Off-Road Racing Series, they're an outstanding group. They come in here very well prepared. They have everything mapped out. So, in General Tire, when Spencer pulls in and he immediately looks out, sees General Tire on the backstretch jump, and his flags are in the yardage markers and everything, we try to make sure those guys are covered, because they obviously all invest a lot of money in being our partners, and we want to make sure they're well taken care of and get the exposure they need.
Yeah, it's obvious, it's well thought out. I think that's a good lesson for all tracks. You got to make the fans welcome, take care of the sponsors and all that. Speaking of fans, obviously the whole COVID-19 era that we're in, which I thought we'd be long over with by now. I think a lot of us did, and then we're not. I mean, now we're starting to talk about, is this going to carry on to 2021? There will be fans here this weekend, I believe.
Absolutely.
And how has it affected you here in Missouri?
Well, when it first really hit in early March, everything shut down. Missouri shut down for a couple weeks, and we all stayed home. We lost about a little over a month and a half of our racing schedule, and we finally got the opportunity to restart with some smaller events in mid-May. We had to cancel our Show Me 100. We had to postpone to a later date, and so we did have to make quite an adjustment. We backfilled a lot of those dates with scheduled days off that we had in different things. But one thing about Missouri, there's a few really large cities, Springfield, Kansas City, and St. Louis, but there's also a very big rural area in Missouri, and so thankfully our governor, Mike Parson, has been very in tune with that and understands the cities that have a lot of cases and stuff have to do things different than a county with no cases or a very small population. So we have just done our best to encourage social distancing, provide hand sanitizer, do the things that we can, but we have not been limited on crowd size, and thankfully people here have been, they've behaved very well, and they understand the risk and what they have to deal with.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, not the politics of it aside, I stopped at a gas station here and I noticed there was no, mask mandate on the window or anything, but yet I saw several people doing it. So
yep.
It sounds like the people are being responsible, and your government has realized it makes sense. It's a big state with a lot of land coverage and focusing on the areas that matter.
Yeah, one size just did not fit all in the state of Missouri, and he understood that. And there's definitely a lot of businesses that require it. Walmart, Dollar General, for instance. We respect that. We go in there, we wear a mask, and you can tell the businesses, and they're just doing the right thing if that's what they feel like they should do. And we do the same way. We're an outdoor event. We have a lot of grandstand seating, a lot of areas to go. We're able to spread people out in a way that makes it beneficial for us to be able to allow those fans to come. And again, if a fan is not comfortable or sick, we encourage them to stay home.
Yeah, that's great.
It's hard for a promoter to tell somebody to stay home, but we understand the times we're in,
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. We're just in interesting times and a lot of quick adjustments, and it all happened so fast.
Yeah.
That we've all had to make quite a few adjustments. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. I'm curious to know a little bit about you. How did you wind up being the general manager of one of the greatest tracks here in America?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird story. It's it's just everybody has a story of how they got to where they're at. And when I was in third grade, my mom got divorced, and I moved with her to a different town. I didn't know anybody, and one of the first guys I befriended, his dad raced a late model Wheatland Speedway in Wilmot, Wisconsin. So when I was 13, 14 years old, we'd go to Wilmot, and we went with his dad. I could change motors in the car then, and I was mechanically inclined, and so I just got the racing bug early on, just through a pure chance deal with a friend, and I ended up just going to more races, and I eventually moved to Missouri and went to work for Larry Phillips in the early 90s. So I spent almost a year working for him, and then I ended up working at Lebanon I-44 and Bolivar Speedway, because as I raced with Larry, I got to know the owner of that track, and I finally realized, he offered me a job. I lined up cars for $60 a night on the front stretch. So I'm like, I have the best seat in the place, I get a free meal, and I get $60 to watch the races. I'm like, I thought that was it. I always really wanted to be a crew member for like NASCAR or something, like a lot of people, and really thought, I would move to Mooresville or something. But as I had a family and stuff, and they're rooted in Missouri, that was the only way. But I never dreamed a full-time opportunity like this would happen. But as I was working for these other local racetracks on the side, and I was a process engineer for a plastic injection molding company that I had done for a long time, but they started building this track up here, and I wormed my way in, and I just beat the door down until they let me run the scoring system and do some PR and stuff. And there was a lot of high expectations when this track started, and maybe some unrealistic on both sides. And they went through a few people, and I finally I knew what Forrest Lucas wanted, and I beat the door down until he gave me a chance to do it. And thankfully, my vision and his line up pretty well, and I've gotten along good. And so that's kind of how it started, just strictly by location. When they were building, I knew I had to be there.
That's great. I mean, that's a great story. I think I have similar things that, you think you're going one way and you lead another way. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I'm sure you're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. Thanks for sitting down with us for a few minutes. I know you're extremely busy, so we won't tie you up. Again, if you've never been here, this truly is an amazing place, a special place that, I wish I'd been here sooner now seeing it, and you're doing a great job. So thank you to all you and your staff, and sitting down with us here for a few minutes.
Well, thanks for having me. And if you can't make it this weekend, tune into Lucas Oil Racing TV, and you'll be able to watch it live there all 3 days.
Dan, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Sean.